Sometimes it takes just a single bite for your whole world to tilt sideways, and you can't unsee or untaste what's right in front of you. I was sitting in the corner booth of a bakery that bore my family's name, holding a slice of apple pie that looked perfect on the outside, golden crust, that warm cinnamon aroma that's supposed to hit you right in the heart, but all it took was one slow cut, and suddenly I'm staring at a mess of watery, artificial goo that's got nothing to do with the real thing. The words echoing from behind the kitchen pass weren't shouted. They were whispered, smug, and careless. They're old. Half of them can't even taste the difference. But you know what? I could. I've tasted every pie that's carried the Heart name for 20 years. And when I say this was betrayal in a crust, I mean it. No yelling, no scene. Just quiet, burning anger, and the kind of calm that comes right before the storm. I pulled out my phone, started documenting, because this wasn't just a bad batch, this was a cover-up, a fraud with a reach so deep it spanned multiple states, all hiding under a lattice of crust they never thought I'd actually eat. Maybe you've been there too bitten into something that's supposed to be familiar, only to realize instantly, in that split-second gut sense, something's wrong. And everyone else? They don't notice, or worse, they don't care. Most folks keep quiet, but that's not me. My name's Jackson Hart, and if there's one thing I know, it's that the truth, no matter how messy, always leaks out. Let me back up a sec. The Golden Hearth Bakery and Grill in Scranton, Pennsylvania, didn't look out of the ordinary. A little dingier than I'd like smudged glass cases, caramel streaks on the marble, a bored teen scrolling on her phone behind the register, not even bothering with the welcome to Golden Hearth greeting my mother drilled into every employee since day one. I kept my ball cap low, looking every bit the tired traveling customer. This place had been sending up warning flares for months. Margins were too high, costs suspiciously low, but not a single complaint. Something didn't add up. Ordered a slice of classic apple pie casual, like I didn't have a stake in every slice sold under that roof. The girl barely looked at me, punched in my order with one hand, shoved my change across the counter with the other. Strike one. I found a booth where I could watch everything. The kitchen, the staff, the customers who chewed in silence under a flickering digital ad that hadn't been updated since winter. When my pie arrived, it looked right. On the surface, anyway. But the smell, if you grew up in a kitchen like mine, you know when something's off. I cut through that crust, expecting to see layers of apple, flecks of cinnamon, the gentle resistance of real fruit. What I got was a gelatinous, over-sweet blob that tasted like someone melted a bag of Halloween candy and called it home-baked. The aftertaste lingered sharp and chemical, and suddenly it was like my whole family history was being faked in broad daylight. Tucked under the plate, half hidden by a napkin, was a tiny printed label product. Apple pie filling, Liberty Orchard Imports. Now, that right there, that's the smoking gun. Liberty Orchard wasn't even on our supplier list. We've got 2 approved Farms family businesses, like ours. Every franchise owner knows you don't substitute. Not ever. It's in bold in the manual, in ink on the contract, and anyone who breaks that rule is out. No debate. My phone buzzed. Dana, my VP of Field Ops, how's the pie? I texted back, fake. Check Liberty Orchard Imports. Minutes later, that's not one of ours. This wasn't a fluke. It was calculated a decision made to swap out what made us us, hoping nobody would ever care enough to notice. But I noticed, and believe me, that changes everything. I pocketed the evidence and watched the dining room. Nobody seemed to care. Staff moved like robots, the energy hollow, the whole place feeling more like closing time than lunch. The only thing alive was the lie inside that pie. I started recording. Observed multiple food safety violations, low engagement, unreported supplier substitution, Scranton unit, 12:47 p.m. My eyes drifted to the office, frosted glass, authorized personnel only in cheap vinyl letters. Behind that door, Karen Polson, store manager, 10-year veteran, once one of our stars, now showing record profits and mysteriously silent customer feedback. Then Dana hit me with the twist. Liberty Orchard, the rogue supplier, had been incorporated last year in Delaware, and the registered agent? Karen's brother, Charles Pohl's son. A family operation. This wasn't an accident. This was a shell game moving money and product through back channels, all hidden in plain sight. And now, thanks to one bad slice of pie, the whole thing was about to unravel. A shadow moved behind the glass. I got up, dumped my tray, and made a call to the store's landline. Karen picked up. "This is Karen Polson. How can I help you?" "Karen, this is Jackson Hart. I'm sitting in your restaurant. Table 4 by the window. You just served me a pie with Liberty Orchard filling. Care to join me?" I watched her freeze through the glass. The moment she recognized Maya, you could feel the temperature drop. She joined me, trying to keep her composure, but the truth was already out. I slid the plate to her. "Go on, take a bite." She tried to play it cool, said, "Batches vary. Costs are up. Times are hard," but the evidence was right there between us. I put the Liberty Orchard label on the table. She admitted to supply delays, short-term alternatives, anything but the actual truth. I pressed her. "You made the call, compromised the product, the brand, my family's name, and didn't even bother to tell us?" She stiffened. "It was about survival," she said, "keeping the store running. But I wasn't buying it. The numbers said otherwise." Her profit margins had never looked better, and nobody had flagged a tunnel now. I asked how long she'd been doing this. "For months," she said. "Not just the filling, but brownie mix, cherries, whatever she could swap. She did, all while keeping corporate in the dark." I started recording. "Samples will be tested today, Karen. If you have anything else to add, now's the time." She shut down, wanted to speak to legal. I took the evidence, told her to leave everything as is, and walked out into the cold. That pie was more than dessert. It was the first crack in the dam. Back at my hotel, Dana called with the next bombshell. Liberty Orchard was a front, a holding company tied to Karen's brother. No FDA filings, no food service history, and the ingredient label I found matched a sample we'd already rejected for containing banned thickeners and unapproved preservatives. We ran tests, pulled merchant logs. Every bite of pie served at that store for 5 months came from a black market operation. The more we dug, the uglier it got. Hidden accounts, fake invoices, payments signed off by Karen herself, all just below the threshold to avoid triggering audits. And the kicker? It wasn't just Scranton. The same scam showed up in 4 more stores, all tied back to Karen. She didn't just cut corners, she built a parallel system to siphon profits and keep everyone silent. Employees were forced to sign fake confidentiality agreements, and anyone who spoke up got their hours cut or transferred. One kid told me about a white van making early morning deliveries, no logos, no records. Karen herself handled everything, while the staff kept their heads down. We caught a delivery in the Acton marked crates, coded labels matching the fake filling. I confronted Karen privately, finally dropping my disguise and showing her my CEO badge. She tried to defend herself, claiming she did what she had to do, but the evidence was everywhere. Secret accounts, intimidation, outright fraud. I didn't need to fire her. Security and legal were already waiting out front, and soon the entire store was shut down for a full audit. I stood before the staff, most of them wide-eyed and scared, and told them the truth. Most weren't to blame, they'd just done what they were told. But those who were in on it, they'd faced the consequences. 3 months later, the Scranton store reopened, cleaner, brighter, with open kitchens and ingredient bins labeled with QR codes for total transparency. The staff was different. Tasha, once the new, nervous kid, was now assistant manager, leading school tours and explaining how we rebuilt the system, not just the recipe. Numbers were up, customers had returned, and real trust was back on the menu. That day, I stood in front of a group of students, holding up a slice of real apple pie, and told them what my mother once taught me. You can taste the truth. Some asked if we caught the people responsible. Yeah, we did. But the bigger lesson was about listening, about not ignoring the little warning signs, about holding the line when others are tempted to take shortcuts. Final rulings came in. Karen and her brother got prison time, full restitution, and the industry took notice of how we handled it. But what mattered more than headlines was a quiet moment with an old man who took one bite and said, "That's the one." I knew I wasn't crazy. That, right there, was worth every battle. As the store closed for the night, I gathered the team and unveiled a plaque that read, "Integrity is the ingredient you can't fake." There was applause, pride, even a little redemption in the air. If you're still with me, ask yourself, have you ever tasted something that seemed right, but deep down you knew it wasn't? Ever speak up, or wish you had? Tell your story in the comments. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like this of truth, of courage, of second chances, then forget to subscribe. There's always more beneath the surface, and sometimes all it takes is one bite to find it.